What up, YouTube? Moving along here. I don't know why I was asked to do this. We're not looking at music. This is 25 common misconceptions about the United States that simply aren't true. I'm American, by the way. I don't know if y'all didn't know that. Usually, when people review stuff like this, it's an outsider's perspective. I guess having an insider's perspective might. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see my take on this. So things that people think about us that aren't true. What? All right, well, get your popcorn ready. I'm sure there's lots of fun talk, fun little gossip going around about Americans. I'd say for the most part, a lot of it's probably pretty true. Most of the world has access to our media outlets, and if you've met Americans and you're not American, you can kind of make up your mind about us. We're the coolest. I don't know who to support here. There's a page on this. It's list 25. Okay, it's a page that does lists. If you like what I do, please like, comment down below, subscribe. I like lists. Let's check it out. I don't know if I'm gonna post this. I haven't made my way through it. I've never seen it, and usually I don't do stuff that's not music. But let's check it out.
The United States often draws a lot of flack from the rest of the world for everything. From its foreign policy to the way it runs its domestic affairs. In fact, it seems like there are few things that can divide the world more evenly and more strongly than asking people what their opinion is of the United States. Everyone has an opinion. Even in the same city, you'll meet people who fall on the extreme sides of the spectrum. But what is it exactly that causes America to be so messed up? Even America's own politicians
I got a lot of theories on that. How much time do you have, my guy?
can't seem to stop talking about how messed up things are. Well, today we're going to take a deeper look. Are things really as bad as everyone seems to think they are? I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 common misconceptions about the United States that simply aren't true.
So this is going to be political.
And as a very important note,
I thought it was going to be like they put mayonnaise on their French fries or some shit like that. Just fun stuff. But if we're going to go politics, sure. That's what my degree's in. It's on the wall there. Yeah, I went to school for, believe it or not.
this list was produced by both a United States citizen and two European citizens that relocated to the United States. It's written to be as fair as possible. No, I'm not two Europeans. Or am I?
No, you're not.
He looks like the Kelsey's younger brother that couldn't make the football team. I'm just kidding. That was me.
All right, let's begin with a really common thought. Americans are ignorant about the world.
That's true, actually. That's not a misconception at all. People in other countries are surprisingly more worldly and more sort of cultured from a knowledge standpoint than most Americans. Come on, think about your friends and your most kind of everyday Americans that you meet. Don't keep up with foreign politics, foreign affairs, for the most part. Everybody knows what's going on in America. They have to. It's kind of the center point for your overall kind of media hub. It's what disperses information for the most part. So I don't think that's a misconception at all.
Americans are held to an unrealistic standard. Since the rest of the world watch our movies and listen to our music, they know a lot about our country. But let's be honest, they never studied it. People actually complain that Americans don't even know that Czechoslovakia doesn't exist anymore. But neither does half the United Kingdom, and they're on the same continent. It turns out that all of us are pretty bad at geography. You'd think America would be better at it, however, considering another common thought is that America spends its day spying on everyone. And that's true, but who doesn't? Germany, France, Switzerland, Japan, Iceland, and all the rest of us spy on each other and ourselves. Moving on, America has been called racist. Please don't take this the wrong way. Racism definitely exists, and it makes the news. But
we hate each other as much as we hate others. Come on.
You know what else? America also has a vicious media, and all of the world watches it, sometimes more than their own media. So when something super bad happens in other countries, it might not even make the back page. Next, it's a common misconception that Americans don't use public transport. While it's true that we use cars a lot, Many regions in America have great public transport, or at least just as good as Europe. Besides, what good is a train if nobody can afford it? I'm looking at you, UK. Moving on.
Yeah, go to Japan. I mean, there's some cities where New York, the public transport's pretty solid, but like, I've never been in a city that's reliant. I don't even like. I grew up. I didn't even know. I don't even think it was available. I grew up in San Diego, and so like, mostly recently, it's getting better. I'm in Arizona right now. We just started like building out our light rail system and our public transport system better, like within the past like 10 years. I don't know. It's definitely, I can name a lot of places where public transport's far more efficient than here in the States. But I really like the cars that I've owned.
America does slash has slash is fill in the blank. America is far from being a unified entity. Each state has its own laws, cultures, and quirks. Some states have the death penalty. Some don't. Some have strict gun laws, and some don't. Some have free college. Some don't. Some have tax, and yeah, some don't. So just like you can't say Europe is so-and-so, you can't say the same about the US.
So this is a comparison just between the US and Europe. It doesn't sound like he's, for the most part, he's talking about this was put together by an American and two Europeans, right? So we're just talking mostly, I think he's mostly referring to the UK, but okay.
As an additional note, the states are far more independent than many of us realize. In fact, every state even has its own military, known as the Guard. Furthermore, some states pass legislation that directly contradicts the federal government. This is because in the US, the federal government is not the highest authority, the states are. To further establish the fact that America isn't a single entity, many believe that Americans only speak one language. But that's no different from the rest of the world. Have you ever been
I speak multiple.
to France, or the UK, or Italy, or how about China? Most of them only speak one language too.
Yeah, I mean with Chinese though, they have like dialects and it's not easy. Like they mostly Mandarin, then they've got like Cantonese and Fujianese, and there's I guess like it's not like when we have accents in the South. They're actually like different dialects. So it's a little different, but I get where he's going.
That being said, over 20% of the US is bilingual. Now, let's talk about the military, because people outside the US will preach that America's military does, again, fill in the blank. Nobody is naive enough to think that the US doesn't have selfish interests in mind when it invades a country. There isn't a nation on earth that would do that selflessly. But whenever the bad goes down, it's just as common for other countries to complain that America should do something. On a more or less lighter note, Americans are fat.
Why did he giggle? You're in good shape, guy.
You ever been to the UK lately? There are even scandals because obese patients are getting turned down for surgery. Yes,
It's not just Americans. It's just the Midwest. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. We're a little bigger. We like our food. It's all right. I don't know. Hit the gym.
America does have an obesity problem. But not all citizens are involved in it. I am. A big part of the United States is fairly health conscious and is consistently working to help the overweight population better their lives. Thanks, healthy people. And while we aren't perfect, many complain that America is worse than other developed nations in, well, everything. There are many statistics, child mortality, literacy, etc., where the US falls behind countries like Norway and Iceland. But those statistics are based on averages.
Those guys are show-offs anyways. Norway, Iceland.
In Norway, most of the 5 million inhabitants are rich, white, and Norwegian. If you took a similar sample of rich, white Americans in the US, you would find that the statistics are almost exactly the same. The fact is that the US is hugely diverse, and the American experience is completely different with and without money. Translation? The problem isn't healthcare or education, it's economic inequality, almost exclusively. And speaking of inequality, many make the simple but powerful assumption that America just isn't safe. This is usually what foreign citizens say until they actually come here. By this same logic, Paris, Brussels, London, Madrid, and almost every other city in Europe is unsafe as well. Yes, there are guns, but most Americans have never seen or heard a gun being fired.
I live in Arizona. I've got guns. So I've seen and heard guns being. I think a lot of people have. I don't know. Guns are kind of common. Well, where I'm at, maybe not. I mean, I grew up in California, so they weren't very common there. But
in fact, most Swiss citizens are much more familiar with gunfire than us Americans. All this being said so far, people still expect all Americans to relish in a life of our stereotypes. Guns, fast food, and freedom! What I'm saying is, a lot of the world looks at America as overly patriotic. But here's an honest question.
I like my freedom. I like my guns, and I was like really wanting to grab an In-N-Out burger yesterday. I didn't because I couldn't find one. But I'm just saying, it's technically fast food. I would have fucked with it for sure. I went to the gym yesterday. I can eat a burger.
Have you ever met a Russian, Australian, a proud member of the UK? There's no shame in having pride in your country. Us Americans are definitely patriotic, but so is the rest of the world, as they should be. It's not a crime to be proud of where you came from. But that doesn't stop others from thinking we only complain and boast about America whenever we travel abroad. This is largely anecdotal.
I'm sorry, so how are these misconceptions? These are thoughts put together by a few people, and are they just generalizing, just sort of blanket statements that they think that the rest of the world, or is this just strictly based on a European mindset? And is it a misconception that we're patriotic? How is that a misconception? We are patriotic. Where's the difference? I'm missing. All he's just stating things that, like, so people think that we're patriotic. Okay, cool. People think that we're a little heavier than we should be. We are. Where's the misconception? People think that we're lacking in our schooling system. We have too many. Our fatality rates are up. Unemployment's up, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, it's all true. What's the actual misconception there? Is he just saying basically, like, what's rubber? We're rubber, you're glue, you are too, sort of thing. Like, you guys think this about us. Well, look at the rest of the world. It's the exact same. So it's not really a misconception. It's just a generalization, right?
In America, Americans like to complain just like the rest of us. Only
as I just went off on a complaint rant.
a few of them ever even leave the country, so you're meeting
Who's that girl?
an unrepresentative sample. But in their defense, many times, they're right. Yes, this can hit hard in the pride spot, but maybe Europeans could stand to smile a bit more, right? No? Okay, fine, back to the
Smiling's the
apathetic,
best.
leave me alone face. By the way, that part was written for our European representative, by our European representative. I love all of you. Anyways, statistics viewed by outsiders show that the US is lagging behind. Similar to topics we've already discussed, there's another factor that we have to take into account: reporting. Every nation reports its own statistics. This means that making statistical comparisons between two developed nations, like the US and the UK, is an exercise in futility. The data is just too close and won't reveal much except that the US counts people one way and the US counts them another. That still doesn't make this misconception true. Americans are fake. Here's the thing. In Europe...
I don't know. I met a lot of fake Americans. I spent 6 years in Orange County in California. They're barely people anymore.
Citizens are almost proud of the fact that they're really standoffish. But once you get to know them, they're your friend for life. Well, here's a newsflash. Once you get to know an American, they'll also be your friend for life. The thing is, though, they don't use this as an excuse to be a jerk in the beginning. This list sounds great coming from an American. I was totally the one who should have read this one, but I digress. On a totally different but very popular misconception, Americans are the only ones who call football soccer. Actually, a lot of the world calls it soccer. Even parts of Ireland still call it soccer. Oh, what do I mean by still? I'm glad you asked. It was actually the British who coined the term soccer. The word soccer is an abbreviation of association and first appeared in universities in the 1880s, sometime
I grew up playing soccer, and I did not know that.
using the variant spelled
Useful facts.
soccer with a K. The word is sometimes credited to Charles Redford Brown, an Oxford University student said to have been fond of shortened forms such as brekkers for breakfast and rugger for rugby football. Britain actually started using the word football in the late 20th century, possibly because people incorrectly saw it as an Americanism. This next one, Tristan couldn't believe. Could you not?
No.
I'm learning something. To our American viewers, did you know that people in Europe make fun of you for using air conditioning? Why do they need it? Why don't they just
Fuck that. I'm in Arizona. Do not come at my air conditioning.
leave the window open? Mosquitoes, at least in Florida. But here's why they might be joining us soon. During the 2003 European heatwave, 70,000 people died. This was in large part due to the fact that European homes and buildings are not typically equipped with air conditioning. While they laugh at the Americans for this, hotter summers are going to force them to take appropriate measures, especially since children and the elderly are very susceptible. Again, I stand
You can make fun of my AC all you want to, and my $450 electric bill. I don't give a fuck. You can come at me. I'm keeping it. I will fight with my guns for my AC unit, for sure. That's family. That's family. Keep my AC's name out your mouth.
by mosquitoes. I'm not opening my window in the summer. Winter, absolutely. Open windows. Moving into the top 9. That's
Who's
a
counting?
weird number. Top 9. Many parts of the world accuse the United States of accounting for 25% of the world's carbon emissions. Not so nice. But it also accounts for 25% of the world's economic activity. The truth is that several nations, including countries like Canada, have higher per capita emissions than the US. Next, let's talk about how the world thinks Americans are ruining English. Actually,
We ruined English a long time ago. I know what he's about to say, but man, our English is fucked up, and it's getting worse too.
both British English and American English have diverged from a common 16th century ancestral standard,
Fucking kids nowadays don't even finish words. Just like I didn't let him finish a sentence.
and in some ways, American English is closer to the original than British English. For example, American English has, for the most part, retained the language's rotosity, pronunciation of the R in words like hard, while British has, for the most part,
Odd.
dropped it. Furthermore, this shift in British English happened around the time of the American Revolution when wealthier Londoners wanted to distinguish themselves from the lower classes. This is only one example, but it goes to show that British English is not an unchanging standard any more than American English. On a totally different note, did you know that Americans don't all live in the suburbs? Nope, not true. The fact is that in America, you have plenty of people that live in cities like New York, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Chicago, Boston, and the list goes on. In fact, several regions of the United States are very European, like the Northeast Corridor, for example. The difference between the US and Europe is that if you want to live in the suburbs in the US, you can.
God, Minnesota they just look cold. It's just gray and cold.
But you don't have to. Now, this next one is just offensive. Americans are all dumb rednecks. While there are certainly Americans who fit this stereotype, the vast majority don't. Most Americans live in cities near the coasts. Most of them are educated, and most of them are not very different from Europeans in any significant way. Every country has a less educated populace that they themselves make fun of. Even sophisticated nations like Sweden and Switzerland. Fair warning, the last 5 on our list get a bit dark and crazy, starting with the idea that America is imperialistic. In many parts of Europe, the United States is seen as an aggressive imperial power, even more so than Russia and China. This is largely because our military presence both in Europe and everywhere else. But in our strong defense, Americans never forced you to watch our movies, quarter our soldiers, obey our laws, or get permission to leave your own countries. It was the Russians that did that, and much, much more. Food for thought, after World War II, the Americans liberated and left. The Russians liberated and stayed. All right, number 4 is sure to be a shocker to a lot of foreigners. Americans don't actually all walk around with guns. It's just not true. Except for a few places, the only people you'll ever see carrying guns in America are the police.
Yeah, I don't know. Come to my neighborhood and walk around for a while. Um, I don't know about carrying assault rifles around, but a lot of people ever since there was like a few years back, ever since, this is like 4 or 5 years old. This is just like yeah, probably about that time. Like there was like just looting everywhere and fucking riots and shit, and um, ever since that, people went out like there was like a shortage on like ammo. Like you couldn't find 9 rounds anywhere, and they were just hiking prices up of everything. But um, a lot more people have weapons. I don't know about carry. I don't carry ever really, unless I have like a trip planned to somewhere really dangerous. But that sounds like a bad idea, anyways. So, but it does. It's not just your military. I have a lot of friends that carry routinely. Um, there's a lot of people that you see that open carry in my state, like daily.
In fact, you'll see more people walking around with guns in Switzerland than you ever would in America. Okay. We admit that, like most stereotypes, there is some truth to this next one, but it's been wildly blown out of proportion. Americans are all crazy Christian right-wingers. There's something so right about saying it with that accent. Yes, there are a lot of Christians in America, and while some of them are crazy right-wingers, most of them aren't. In fact, if you ever get a chance to go and stay with one of those crazy Christian families, you'll see that most of them are just genuinely sweet people that go to church on Sundays. This next one sounds like a legit stand-up joke. If you get injured and can't pay for it, you'll just die in the street. Yeah, many people in Europe think this is what happens in America. As with most things that concern America, they're wrong.
Yeah,
You
that's
can't
not
be
true.
denied emergency medical care in the US. That would go against the Hippocratic Oath. The difference is that you get a bill in the mail a few months later. Of course, debt is another issue, but let's get into that right now.
Is that number 1 on the list?
Americans are all in debt.
Yeah.
Actually, European citizens carry more debt than Americans.
Really?
The average household debt in the US, OECD, is 113% of the household's income. In the UK, it's 156%. In Sweden, 173%. And in Denmark, it's a whopping 305%. So,
I feel like this is again specifically Europe v US. Um, I thought this was worldly misconceptions about the U.S. This is apparently just European misconceptions because all his references are mostly like Scandinavian. Like he's not bringing up like really anything but Europe. He only brought up Russia to reference a war. Um,
what are some misconceptions about the US that you'd like cleared up? Or do you live in America and want to put a stereotype to rest? Let us know in the comments below, or tweet your answer to us at List25. And as an American, I apologize for everything going on right now. Don't worry, 2020 is just around the corner. Oh. Enjoying our lists? Be sure to click that subscribe button on the bottom right and the notification bell so you don't miss out on new ones every Monday through Friday. Share them with friends.
okay. I mean, it's interesting. It's kind of a food for thought. It's nothing that I don't think that anybody doesn't sort of know. Again, a lot of those aren't really misconceptions. A lot of those are overblown truths, right? A misconception is a blatant disregard for truth. A lot of these are just overemphasized truths, right? So it's Americans walk around carrying guns. No, but we do have them. I mean, it's not that there's a lot of Americans that do. So that's not a complete betrayal of the truth, right? And we're heavy set. Okay, walk around. Use your eye test. I don't know. What misconceptions do I want to clear up? Absolutely none. Let them talk their talk. To quote the theme song from Karate Kid, because we're the best around. That's why. Anyways, I'm just kidding. Oh, we're arrogant, right? Yeah. Talk to me. I'm just kidding. Chill. Not really. Um, cool. Okay, so we yeah, I guess if you want an American's perspective on that list, I don't know that those teeth are fucking me up. I don't know that those are necessarily like misconceptions. Again, I see a lot of truth in a lot of that. Just it just might be overblown. But the same thing, we do the same thing with stereotyping everybody. You know, every Asian's a bad driver. No, not really. I'm not even sure where that came from. There probably are some bad drivers that are all sorts of shapes and colors. You know, but it's I don't know. Anyways, well that was fun. Happy Saturday. Like if you like, please comment down below. Subscribe. We'll keep it moving to the next.